Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Rebel Crow Psychic Show with your host, Athena Silver.
Hi, I'm Anja River.
Hi, everyone. We want to welcome you guys back. It's a good night. We're having good energy, good vibes. We're chilling. We wanted to invite you guys into our space. So today we want to talk about conscious parenting, parenting for a better tomorrow, for, conscious children that know about the world, that know their sacred place in, in this divine comedy, this drama that we're living in.
Such a great way to put it.
Well, it is what it is, right?
Can I just jump in real fast?
Yeah,
Because I have a quick story based off of what you just said. That was so good. I remember when I had my first and he was about 1, and I was walking down the street with him, or we were on the street, right? And this poor girl who just had a baby was sitting on the bench and she was crying. And she came up to me and she asked me, "Is this going to get better? Is this going to get easier?"
Rookie question.
Well, mind you, I had a 1-year-old, so what did I know at that point? But even with a 1-year-old, I was like, "Hun, I can't lie to you. It's going to get harder, but you'll get better at it." That's the important part, is that you will get better as time goes on. But I
think you just get better at band-aiding problems and you stop caring as much. I have 2, just so you guys know a little bit of context. It's not like we're talking about, parenting when none of us are parents. We're both parents, I have 2 wonderful boys that are 6 and 7. They're my little crows.
Yeah, they really are. You guys have a strong crow energy.
Oh, yeah.
And you're a branch of the family. And it's so funny because, like, my son, he just loves trees.
Oh, yeah, he's a tree hugger for real.
We're like tree people, and you guys are like crow people.
Well, it's funny because we're actually a mix of both. On my property, we actually have a murder of crows that live in the big trees on my property. And so every time we're outside, we're looking at the crows, we're counting the crows, we're looking at all the different bird species. And I'm constantly pointing out, like, oh, you see that one bird. Oh, that means we're on the right path. All right, we're seeing those 2 birds. Oh, we got to slow down. There's something, something we got to be aware of coming our way.
I get the crows too. I just think the crows are really, 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 you're special to them, like, in a serious way.
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
I've always had a connection with crows. Even when I was a little kid, I remember watching them out of my window, and I would always do like the cawing sounds, like, trying to get their attention.
I did not know that.
Well, I don't really advertise, that I talk to birds.
But I love the sound that you made. Like, that was great.
Well, that's what they sound like. Anyway, back to our topic.
Back on topic.
Parenting.
Back on topic.
All right. So
can I tell you some more about, like, what was going on today?
Sure.
And I have what? Go ahead.
No, it's cool. We got a couple minutes.
So, yeah, it's been crazy. Just like crazy. Everyone out there who is dealing with, the kids not being in school, and we all have to be in this together. Like, it's nuts. I mean, I know we can't be together, but, I'm sure we're all feeling it, mine is my son. He's got special needs. He's regressing without his therapy. It's just feels like, one crisis after another. And yeah, it's really, really tough. So I'm sending all my love out to all you parents right now who are dealing with this.
Yeah.
It's no joke, like, this is no joke. On top of all the other things that are happening, having this added pressure of being 24/7 without any relief, and all of our kids missing their friends and their teachers and therapies and all of that stuff. But thinking about this topic, like, you know, I don't know so, oh, well, I wanted to ask you a question but before I do that, I just wanted to tell everybody that this book, we have no affiliations with any of this, but this book has helped me so much in my journey. And it is a homeschooling book, but I recommend it for everybody, especially now everybody has a little bit of homeschooling experience.
Yeah.
It's called The Brave Learner: Finding Everyday Magic in Homeschool, and it's by Julie Bogart. And two things that I took away from this book, one was like an action item, and then the other one was more of like a philosophy item. The action item, but there's like so many things in this book. I love this book so much. The one action item that like really struck me was, and it's great for like this sort of situation where we're all stuck at home, is putting together like a table of arts and crafts where they're allowed to use it all the time. And that kind of like blew my mind, because usually, you know, arts and crafts especially, it's something that you just, you know, you're like, you feel like you have to clean up and everything. So these are items that you just leave out that, you know, are safe, obviously, you know,
It's
like
funny
not choking
it's funny you
hazards.
say that. I do something similar with my kids. They have like this suitcase thing that's filled with like markers and color pencils and crayons and stuff, and I keep like the different colored paper, you know, the construction paper. And I'm like, do what you gotta do. If you want coloring pages, you know, you want some Pikachu, let me download and print it out. You know, you want some Smurfs, you want some trolls, let me hit you up, you know. And I noticed that it's like every time there's any kind of boredom, any downtime, if say someone hypothetically gets grounded, the other one can say, all right, you know, let me go draw, let me go occupy myself, you know. So it's not like he's waiting around for anybody to tell him what to do creatively. He knows exactly, like, I do this, I go there, I do that.
And then they get, you know, not only do you get like a little bit of a break, but they get this unstructured time where they can create like whatever they want.
And that's a big deal, you know. The biggest thing I want to highlight here with the conscious parenting is, you know, really what it means to conscious parent, to be a conscious parent. It's more about the philosophy of being truthful to your children about the world around them, teaching them very hands-on about, you know, say like climate change, and, you know, how like what your role is in it and how you can affect change, you know, on a individual level. It goes deeper with, you know, it's about how you raise your children and how you want them to see the world and how you want to set up that reality for them. You know, the biggest thing I think is breaking the chains of cyclical generational hate and, you know, racism, because that gets passed down, you know, from family member to family member. That's not just something you pick up out of nowhere. That's something that runs in a lot of family lines, you know. And it's not just with, you know, like white people. It's, you know, everybody can have bias and look and teach their kids to, oh, look down on this type of person. Oh, these people dig ditches. Oh, they're nobodies. No, you turn it up and you tell them everybody is equal. We all have something to bring to the table, and it's all going to be different. You know, that's part of it. Another part of it is showing them affection, teaching them good ethics and morals. You know, for instance, I talk to my children about voting and what it means to be a conscious citizen in this country. You know, what a good president is supposed to do versus one that doesn't care. You know, what good public works are, what good bills look like that protect the citizens and that come from, you know, what the people want versus, you know, restrictions that are getting placed on us without our knowledge. You know, teach them how to be a part of the system, but to do it in a more like righteous and enlightened way.
And it can be tough because, you know, especially like right now, like it's hard to find your place a little bit, like,
Oh,
like things are
definitely.
a little disorienting right now, so
Which,
it,
which
it
is
can
why
be
you got to start with
difficult.
the small things,
Yeah.
start showing
Like you
them
build those
how,
muscles.
yeah, it's like start by just
Yeah.
growing something, plant some seeds, show them how to plant, show them how to sustain, on this earth for themselves where they're not taking too much,
My
teach
daughter
them
loves to
recycling.
garden. My little 2-year-old, she's a little natural gardener.
Yeah.
I swear. And I'm so glad, like, gardening is one of the best things I've done, I think, that is like a generational thing,
Yeah.
like, well, I just started. Right. So, whatever.
I've been doing it a couple of years with my kids, and it's been a really rewarding experience. Every time those plants, it's harvest time, we're eating it, we're watching these flowers bloom. It's a reward each and every time. It's because you're looking at the next generation and you're filling that mind with the type of person that we need to have in the next generation. As parents, we got to be very mindful on how we fill our kids.
Right. Yeah. And that starts with yourself. You
Oh,
have to be
yeah.
mindful of yourself. That actually is perfect. Like, some of the things that I wanted to, that I like, that's exactly where I was going to go with what I was going to say is,
I got you, girl. I
I
got
know
you.
we're so like, so so what I was thinking was, like, one of my biggest difficulties being an air sign, being a fixed air sign,
Mhm.
maybe it's just my personality, who knows, but I have a really hard time. I'm slow to change, and I have a really hard time, like, just changing, like, just changing. And when you're a parent, like, everything is so fast paced, like they're doing one thing and then they're doing the next thing. And I don't mean just like physically, but like developmentally, it's so fast, it moves so quick. And you got to be ready, like, you got to be like, okay, something just happened. I got to figure out how I'm going to respond to this, and what's the best way to nurture this kid, and sometimes you don't get it right. There's so many times that I don't get it right. Like, every time I yell, which I try not to do, but it happens, and you're just like, oh God, like, how do I fix this? And one of the things that has helped me a lot, and I'm going to talk about it a ton in this podcast, so buckle up, be prepared. It's one of my favorite things, is using the process of salve and coagula on yourself.
So explain that a little bit. Set us
I
up with the
will.
knowledge, for
I
for the
will.
for the people who don't know what that is.
So salviate coagula is an alchemical process for transformation. So, sounds magical, and it really is magical, and it can be very mundane, like, it doesn't have to be magical if you're not into being like a magical person, but it is a hermetic, tradition, and it's an alchemical process. And what it means is salve is to dissolve, and coagula is to put together. And the basic concept is, and I apply it everywhere around my house, like when I'm cleaning, I'm thinking salve and coagula, like salve would be take out the trash, like take some things out, and coagula is, put it back together. And then you have a transformed house, like, that's just one example. So applying the process to yourself is in regards to parenting, like, I'm a type of person who needs a process. So I just, like, wrote down some things that I try to do when I find myself in a situation where I'm too slow to change, or I find myself in a cyclical pattern. The salve and coagula process that I would use on myself would be observe, interrupt, deconstruct, rebuild. So observe, like, just stop and look at what you're doing with curiosity, not with judgment. Like, you just observe yourself. You notice there's a pattern, and you just kind of like watch that pattern happen. Like, you separate yourself and you look at yourself from above, you just watch that pattern, no judgment. Interrupt, right? Very self-explanatory, like, you just literally, like, if I find myself yelling one day, and this is actually in The Brave Learner, the book that I was talking about too, I might have like co-opted that a little bit from her, where she talks about sometimes when you're just so stressed out and the kids are yelling and, you know, you start yelling and you just notice it and just stop and maybe start giggling, you know, like you just like plop your butt down, just stop, you know, stop the mental process, just stop. And then deconstructing would be, you know, taking that behavior that you as a parent are exhibiting out, you know, out of the, you know, trying a new way to deal with whatever the problem is. You know, that's when you start looking at the problem and making up, you know, trying to find a new way to do it. I'll give you a quick example that happened to me today. Since my son has special needs, he started getting aggressive when his dad went back to work, and he's not getting his therapy, and it's really stressful. And I, after like crying all day, you know, like just really in a hard space, I don't know, I had this idea. He's being aggressive. Why don't I pick him up, throw him over my shoulder, and spin him around the room, and you let him get some, you know, some movement, you know, because he doesn't seem like he wants to be aggressive. It seems like he almost feels like he has to be forceful to get them move, you get the energy out of his body.
Yeah,
so
it's
like,
pent up energy.
Yeah. So it was like, I was just like, maybe I'm going to try this and see if this works. And it worked, and it was amazing. And it was like, you know, it didn't make everything better for the day, but it definitely helped, you know, like it actually worked.
I want to touch on something really quick. It's very similar and in line to what you're saying about discipline. One thing that, besides leading, you know, by example for your kids and showing them the way that you need to be living, you know, in the way that you want them to live, with discipline in particular, what I try to do with my kids and what I've noticed, you know, with my boys is I will say, all right, you know, you can't do that. Whatever you said, whatever you did, it's wrong. You know, it's right down to the brass tacks of it. It's wrong. But I'm going to tell you that I still love you. I still think you're a great person. It's just you're making a mistake here. And this is what you should have done, you know, or this is what I would have done in your shoes. It's showing them that it's okay to be fallible and that you still have love for them, that it doesn't change your bond with them or how you view them, you know, because kids, they need that extra validation, especially when it comes to emotional security, you know, in their development and in their identity. And when you're saying, all right, you messed up, let me stop you here, let's flip it around, let's see what you did wrong, and let's correct it, you know, and then summing that up with you know, I still love you, there's still love here, you know, it's okay to have conflict with somebody, you just want to clean it up when you're done.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Clean it up when you're done.
Well, that's what it is.
I love
conflict's messy.
You do practice everything that you are talking about. Like I have firsthand accounts of that. So I love that. You know, like I love that I can see everything that you're saying. Like I can think of personal examples of that from you. You know, that's cool.
Well, I appreciate that, you know.
Yeah, of course.
Another thing I noticed, and this comes back from my childhood in particular, you know, I'm not going to talk specifics, it's just general here, but when I was growing up, I noticed there was this thing, and I noticed it's not just in our family, but in other families where, you know, the child's the child and the adult is the adult. And, you know, whatever the adult has to say far vastly outweighs whatever the child's bringing to the table.
That sounds very familiar.
What that does is it's telling the child that whatever you have to say, nobody cares about, that it's not important, that you're not a fully formed adult. So whatever your thought is, doesn't matter. And what you're telling your children, you're setting the precedent of, is that no matter what they got to say, if they're not to a certain level, or they're not a certain age, or they're not, you know, in a certain place in their life, that what they have to say doesn't bring value. And that's just not true. You're doing more harm than good there. You know, that's why, you know, as much as it gets kind of annoying sometimes, I will sit there and I'll listen to the stories they got to say and the questions they have to ask, and I answer them. It's because I want them to feel like whatever thought that's in their bodies, that's in their heads, that idea that they have, that they can really, you know, they can dream and they can do it, and they that there doesn't need to be fear. You know, a lot of people in the old school generations, they are very, very heavy on fear, guilt, and shame. You got
fear-based parenting, right?
Yep.
Yes.
You got to put the fear of God in them. You got to
Yes.
shame them when they do bad, and you got to guilt them to keep them on track. And what that does is it derails you. It makes you carry this baggage that you don't need to carry. You know, it burdens people, and people are afraid to try, you know.
I wonder how much of that is the product of like from a generational standpoint. Like, do you think that our generation has gotten better with that as a whole, or what are your thoughts?
I noticed with our generation in particular, it seems like we've all been sent here to flip the script on everything. To, you know, for anybody who has abuse in their lives, we're the generation to not abuse our kids, you know, or we're the ones that we care what you have to say. We're going to lift you up and validate you, even though our parents cut us down or stopped us short or put us in a box. You know, we're the generation that instead of living in fear, there's a lot of people that are, you know, finding community online, that are, you know, reaching out to other people in support groups. For the first time, I think in a very long time, I think in the history of the world, it's okay to have family that's not related, and they can be your entire family.
That's a big change. You're right. That is a huge thing that our generation
we used to live in houses, in multi-generational houses, and a lot of people still do, especially like, you know, in Eastern countries, they have multi-generational housing.
I think we're going back to that a little bit. You know, it's not like so widespread, but I think that that's more common now, you know, like especially when you have, it's going to be more common, I think.
Well, you know, more people are going to be out of work, so we're kind of have to, you know, band
you gotta
together
move back in with mom and dad. Yeah.
You know, hope it works. Pray for the best.
everything is changing with what's going on. Everything, and I think that in a couple of years, you know, it goes back to the conscious parenting, because like flexibility is so important, and you know, like again, like somebody like me, like just doesn't naturally have the flexibility. Like I have to work at it really hard, but I think that is going to be key throughout most, you know, interactions in the next couple of, you know, most things that are going to go on in the next couple of years. We're going to need to really develop some flexibility and be able to, you know, adapt really quickly. Sorry, just going off on a tangent. I'm sorry.
That's cool. It's cool. No, I was going to say, you know, another side of it is teaching them about their family history, about the culture in which they are a part of, or multicultures that they're a part of, depending on, you know, if they're biracial or whatever the situation is. They need to know the people's names that came before them. They need to know, okay, I had somebody who lived in England, my great grandmother, and you know, this is her name, because it creates a very strong bond to other places in the world. It gives you a good, it gives you history, it gives you identity, it gives you a collective that you belong to. You know,
having the kids do, I've started getting my kids into the ancestor altar, and you know, we're gonna do an episode on that too.
Yeah.
That I feel like, because they're here, they want to be a part of our kids' lives, you know, like they want to bless our kids just as much, if not more so, than to bless us. You know, or I feel that really strongly, like I'm so blessed, but I'm extra blessed when I bring my kids into, you know,
well, you're giving them a layer of cultural identity that they didn't have before, or that you weren't really conscious about before. But it's gonna be a way for them to say, when they're older, when they're grown up, they can say, all right, you know, my mother's family came from this island and they were this kind of people, and you know, this is where my dad's family is from. It gives them a solid base to work on. You know, people that don't, you know, unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that, due to historical, you know, crappy situations, their ancestry is lost. luckily there's a lot of like genomic testing, DNA testing that can be done to kind of give you some of those lost ties. But even just to know who your grandparents were, what their story was, how did the people get to America or wherever you are from?
See, I'm more interested in that. I'm not as much interested in where, specifically, but, beyond, well, I mean, we're both very lucky that we know a lot,
Yeah.
But I'm more interested in the people and what their lives were like and,
I agree.
You know what I mean? Like knowing just a place, like, especially a place that haven't been to, actually I have visited a lot of the places where I have ancestry from, but it's just more abstract, it's not as important as like keeping those people close and giving your kids a conscious connection to those who came before them and, are personally invested, even if they've already passed over, they're personally invested in their lives.
See, I agree with you there, but I also think that proximity and location play a very important role because, for instance, our family comes from Caribbean islands. We come from Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic. Now, for somebody to understand my worldview, you've got to go back to before 1492. Because it happened, 500 plus years ago, but a lot of that hurt, a lot of that ancestral turmoil, a lot of that backstory, got me to where I am now. I wouldn't be passionate about the things that I'm passionate about, like Indigenous people's rights and, land sovereignty and, activism in the way that I am if I didn't know the wrongs that were perpetrated in history. It gives me a very real cultural connection with the places that my ancestors lived.
Yeah, well, that's true. You're right.
It also gives you the layer of pride, like we're Boricua, tu sabe, and we got pride like that.
I was just gonna say, oh, never mind.
But it's like, if I didn't know that side of the family, I feel like part of my identity would be lost there, like the music, the plate, when I went to Puerto Rico, like the first time I landed, I was like, this feels energetically like home. Now I have dreams about it being there, like it feels like a holy place for me, in certain points of the island.
I felt like that when I went to Scotland. My mom's side has Scottish ancestry, and it's exactly how I felt when I went there.
But so it directly does affect who you are on an identity level, and I
think it's nice. I think having a connection to a place is nice. I also think that you can have connections, like deep soul connections to places that you are not a direct lineage of, that maybe is a part of a past life.
Yeah, that's a past life thing. That's a different topic for a different day.
It is.
That's a rabbit hole right there. And I'm not trying to be Alice in Wonderland tonight. I just think it's really.
Oh, I enjoy you.
I love you too.
You're delightful.
It's really, the whole gist of this is being there for your children, being there to teach your children the things that they need to know to be successful adults. I know change is hard for you, but for me, I'm an agent of change. My card is the death card. I'm always in transformation. What I was yesterday is not what I will be tomorrow. And
so what do you have to work at? Like, where do you feel like you have, because I say change is hard for me doesn't mean that I'm not working on it. And that
I'm not saying that. But my big downfall is I'm always worried about what comes next. And I have a propensity to teach them, like I'm always telling them, ask me anything. What do you want to know? I had a talk with my son the other day about how the human body works. I was like, what do you want to know? Tell me what you want to know. And he was like, what does the heart do? And I explained it. I broke it down to him. I told him the diseases that can happen if you're not healthy, you know, what can happen emotionally that, you know, that people thought we used to think with our hearts, but now we don't, you know.
You do think with your heart a little bit.
Well,
you know?
scientific
Yeah, I get
context.
what you're saying.
I
get
was
where you're
giving him
going.
pure medical science.
Yeah, right.
You know, but I also, a lot of times I'll tell them the alternative, what other people think, you know.
Right.
My other son asked me recently about God, and, you know, another topic for another day. But in short, I basically told them, you know, listen, we all believe different things. It's the same thing at the core. We just call it different names.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it's essentially a higher power, something that's divine, you know, divine light, divine source, divine inspiration, creativity, that inner voice, whatever you want to call it. You know,
Damn, why couldn't you have been my mom? You're so good at this stuff.
Thanks, girl. No, I look at my children like miniature sized people, you know.
That's me too. I mean, you need to have a philosophy, and that is a really good thing to be a part of your philosophy, is that you are just the steward of this tiny person.
Yeah.
You know, like, this is not an extension of you. This is not, you know.
Well, I do see them as part of me. I do. But I see them as a sovereign entity that has attachment to me, that came from me, you know.
Well, yeah.
Actually, we're together, linked by DNA, by blood, by ancestry, the whole nine. But when I do look at them, I look at them kind of like a blank sheet of paper, and it's like a resume for life. You know, do I want it to say that there was institutional violence, that there was, you know, racism that was being perpetrated or whatever? Or do I want a resume that says this person is trying to do good for themselves and their community, that they're giving love, that they're helping people in need, that they're doing good things in their lives, that they're living right? You know, I would rather have that piece of paper say that for my child versus the other, you know. And if I have any control of it, it's going to be through the learning process, through the sharing process, and the nurturing process. Because in all essence, it brings you guys closer together. It strengthens the lines of communication, and they're not afraid to come to you about the real heavy, you know, topics like, you know, somebody offered me drugs. What do I do? You know, I'm trying to get ahead of that so that they have the wherewithal and the answers to know how to answer it before the question's even asked.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And they're really lucky kids to be able to have that. It's not a common thing.
Well, thanks. You know,
I think.
I will say a lot of it was birthed in what not to do.
Yeah.
I saw the reverse of it.
Yeah.
You know, and you know what, that was a learning experience in and of itself. You know,
yeah, it all is.
Our lives are what we make of it. Our children's lives are what we want to help them with. You know, we want to help this life to reach its full potential, you know. And if I'm not filling it with the right food, the right talk, the right support, that little soul is never going to get to the level it needs to be at, you know.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you on that, because I think that adversity can be a great agent for growth. But I do think that we have a responsibility, and you know, and you just give your kid so much better of a head start, and an easier, you know, not easier, but just,
it's your honesty is the best policy. You know?
It's your responsibility as a parent to do everything that you can do to make this a good life, you know, a good childhood for your kids, you know, and that looks different. But I don't think that adversity.
I agree with you there. Adversity can give you a bit of an edge, but I kind of see it though as when there's adversity,
it's a
lot of trauma that's got to get addressed.
It is a wild card. Adversity is a wild card, you know,
and it can make or break somebody.
Yeah, right.
You know, and you don't have the right constitutes, you know, you're screwed.
Yeah. Don't roll the dice if you don't have to.
Exactly. You know, and as a conscious parent, you're making the conscious decision not to roll the dice. You're saying, I'm not going to leave this up to chance, and I'm going to do my part to step in to make sure that this child is a success in life versus letting them fall through the cracks and see what happens. you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, I want to thank everybody for coming in, you know, and coming back and checking in with us. I want, you know, please like, subscribe, and follow at Rebel Crow Psychic Show. As you can tell with our lovely new graphic, our website is up. It's www.rebelcrowpsychicshow.com. I want to let you guys know if I have a really big opportunity coming up. I'm going to be featured on a radio show, Business Talk Radio 1 out of New York. I'm going to be doing an 8-minute segment on July 15th. I'll be posting stuff up as I get more information, but I figured I'd let you guys all know in case you want to, you know, tune in and hear some stuff.
Amazing. Yeah. And our personal Instagram. So what's your Athena Silver site for readings?
Okay. So if you're interested in my services and any readings and any events that I do for my personal business, it's www.readingswithathenasilver.com. If you want to check me out on Instagram, I do a bunch of cool videos and stuff, and I'm always posting different stuff. I'm at athena.silver. And what about you, Anja? Tell the people.
I'm just on Instagram. It's at Anja River, ANJARIVER. And I also do readings. If you would like to book a reading with me, just contact me on Instagram.
Definitely. You know, I want you guys to know that we're looking for topics, that we're interested in hearing from you guys. You know, if there's anything that you want to hear about, if there's a topic you want us to cover, please feel free to reach out to us, either commenting below on this video or emailing us or hitting us up on social media. Feel free to share us, get us around, tell your friends, tell your mother, we're trying to bring community together and bring people together in spiritual positivity, so keep an eye out for us. We're going to be going on Apple and Spotify for the audio version coming soon. So keep an eye out for that, when everybody goes back to work and commuting and all that, you have something to listen to on your drive. But anyway, we love you. We wish you abundance, riches, happiness, peace, harmony, take care of yourself. Take care of yourselves, take care of your children, take care of your family, and we'll catch you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.